Sorting through the many perspectives takes work. The seemingly never-ending opinions can get noisy, but what if we choose to change our vantage point? Think bigger, dig deeper, change the dialogue. Discovering the truth above it all. It's time to elevate the conversation.
Hey everyone! Well, last week, Pastor Cody talked at our block party about how to have hope in Jesus Christ in even the most unbearable and painful, difficult circumstances. Well, today we are continuing to elevate the conversation and talking about diving in, getting a little bit more practical about things that we can do during hard times. Well, I want to tell you guys about my mama, someone that I absolutely love. My mama is an amazing woman. Someone that has been a role model for me and in my faith my entire life. She really has modeled having a healthy marriage. She has prioritized church and serving other people and really putting her family first above all else. Well, my mom, she has been plagued with chronic pain and mental illness for her entire life. And she has been diagnosed from a long time ago with diagnosed rapid cycling bipolar depressive disorder. And man, the way that plays out in her life, there's days where she feels great and all things are good and she's ready to take on the world. And something that me and my mom love to do is to go shopping together. And when we're out shopping, my mom talks to everyone that she meets. The guy at the cash register, the girl standing in line next to us, just anyone that we come in contact with. She engages them in a friendly conversation and just has a great conversation with them and makes new friends. I, on the other hand, I'm more kind of keep to myself. But I love my mom. There's also other days where my mom really just can't even get out of bed physically because those days are so unbearably tough. And man, those days, it's like where she can't even, she doesn't even want to see people or talk to people, which is really unlike her normal personality. And this is mostly due to a chemical imbalance that's in her brain whenever the depression really takes over. And she describes those days of depression like this really heavy, dark cloud that weighs heavily on her and that follows her around everywhere, something that she can't escape. She describes it as this like unbearable pain, but that's a pain that's on the inside, something that people can't see from the outside looking in. It's almost as if that she's bleeding on the inside, but no one can see it, and so they don't understand it. And to be really honest, guys, I hate this disorder. I hate what it does to my mom. I hate having to, there's been days where I've just sat next to her and held her hand and helped her take another breath just to keep going, to keep pushing through. And I don't know what I can do other than just be near her. And there's something really amazing though, because even in those really most difficult, hardest days, and I'm holding her hand and through the tears, she has told me, Rachel, if I didn't have Jesus Christ to hold on to, I don't know that I would be here anymore. That's really hard to hear. But man, my mom works really hard to make sure that she does the things she knows that she has to do to help pull herself out of the darkness, out of those hard times. And so, she does everything she can usually it's a combination of taking care of her physical body, her mind, and her soul, her spirit. And it's things like, she takes her medication regularly. She calls her doctor whenever she needs to. She knows that outside fresh air and sunshine makes her feel better. And so she tries to get outside, go for a walk, sit in the backyard. That does something. It actually releases positive chemicals in her brain. And man, she has scripture verses all over her house. You should actually see her Bible. It is more colorful than a rainbow, with all the highlighter markings from the decades of spending time in God's Word. Well, why do I tell you this? Because there's something that I really want you to get, and it's this. It's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way. And my mom, she has a lot of days where, unfortunately, she's not okay. But through her life experience, she's a little older, a little wiser, lived a little more life. And I've seen through her life and her example that she knows and she models it's not okay to stay that way. You've got to do the things you got to do to pull yourself out and to get better, to seek other people and get help around you. And I think like this is relevant for all of us, because whether you maybe struggle with depression or anxiety, something diagnosed, or going through just something really, really tough. We all experience some type of pain and suffering, or even just big, overwhelming feelings based on a circumstance that we're in. We all experience it from time to time. It's just a part of life. And Jesus even told us this. He gave us a heads up in the book of John, chapter 16. It says, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." So being a Christ follower doesn't mean that things will get easy, that life will be easier. We as Christ followers are just as likely as everyone else to experience pain and heartache in this world. But just as Cody mentioned last week, what it does mean is that we have our hope in Jesus Christ. We have our hope in a man who lived as a human on this earth, a perfect life that we could never live, who died a death on our behalf in our place because of the sin that separated us from God, a death that we deserved. But he didn't stay dead. He rose from the grave 3 days later. And he became victorious over sin and death. That is why we can have hope in Jesus, because he overcame the world. So what do we need to do to make sure that on the times that we're not okay, how do we make sure that we don't stay that way? Well, I want us to look at Psalm chapter 23. This is a special psalm. It's all about how the Lord is our shepherd. Let's take a look at verse 4. It says, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." And man, guys, this might be a verse that you want to memorize, you want to hang on to, you want to write down and put it everywhere in places that you're going to see often. Whenever you go through some painful friend drama, or whenever you experience some awful news, that you can remember that the Lord is your shepherd, that he cares for you, cares about you, and comforts you, that you don't have to be afraid because he's with you. And that's a truth. That's a promise that you can hold on to. But some of you might be thinking, yeah, that sounds nice and all, but whenever I'm in those thoughts, when I'm in that hard place, or what feels like the darkest, deepest valley, I can't just think of a Bible verse or read a Bible verse and suddenly things are better. My brain just doesn't do that. It doesn't exactly work for me that way. So what do I do? Maybe you feel like your thoughts can instead, when you have a negative thought, just go a little bit more out of control. And maybe you experience something that actually is, like the physical feelings of nervousness or panic. Things like an increased heart rate, even sweating, an anxious, upset stomach, or trouble sleeping. All of those are like real physical symptoms. And if that's ever you, I want to tell you guys, students, your emotions are real. Your anxiety is real. And what you might be experiencing is what I call the anxiety spiral. The anxiety spiral is where the physical senses, the thoughts, the behaviors, and the actions, they all continue to reinforce each other, and they amplify each other and make each other stronger and more intense. Because we know that there are stressors in life, and our body has a natural response to stress. And stress gives us a negative feeling, which gives us a negative thought, and leads to some type of behavior or action. And that first downward spiral, that's a natural, normal thing. Sometimes a first spiral or two. But to continue the spiral, is where it gets dangerous, because it usually starts with maybe just a little worry or a fear, but then it gets more and more intense. And that spiral will continue until something breaks the pattern, breaks the spiral. And so it can sound a little bit like this. True story. So I had a knee injury, right? And that caused me a lot of physical pain. And that pain gave me sudden and instant fear. And that fear, the physical pain cued me to have a thought, which was immediately, oh no, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, right? And I started thinking that, which then increased my heart rate, another physical cue. An increased heart rate led a little bit to some panic. And I started having more and more thoughts like, oh no, this hurts a lot. This hurts too much. Maybe my leg's gonna fall off. Maybe I'm dying. Do you see how that got a little bit like more and more intense as I kept going? The physical part, the thoughts, and the actions all together work together to create this spiral. Well, we don't have to keep spiraling. We can learn to get out of the spiral by replacing the irrational thoughts with a true thought. We don't have to listen to the lies that anxiety gives us, but instead replace it with truth. And we can reinforce and make stronger that truth with an action or with a behavior. And it does take self-awareness to realize ourselves when we are in that anxiety spiral, when we kind of get trapped in it. But we can learn to replace lies with truth. And if we're going to do that, the first step is to identify what are the lies, what are the things that I tell myself that really just aren't true. So I want to give you guys 4 things to be on the lookout for. These are 4 things that can cause anxiety to spiral. Here they are. First, I have no control. Second, it's all in my head. Third, I'm going to miss out. And fourth, I can do this alone. Those are things like statements to really be cautious and careful of. So if you catch yourself with any of those statements or other thoughts that cause you to spiral, then there's 3 things that you can be on the lookout for and that you can do when you catch yourself doing that. First, you can remind yourself of what's true, what's actually really, really true, not just a hypothetical or a theoretical. What is actually true right now? Second, you can ask yourself, what can I do? What is an action step, something real that I can do? And third, ask, how can I invite God in? How can God be a part of this? How can I meet God in this moment? And so as you learn to do these 3 things, you can learn to break out of the anxiety trap that maybe you have ever experienced. And so you can practice looking for the truth, replace the lies with truth. You can practice some real tangible steps, and you can practice seeking God in the process. In your home groups, you're going to dive into even more today the practical side of what that can look like for you and in your life. Because whether you struggle with anxiety or not, whether you struggle with depression or not, we all go through hard life circumstances, things that are difficult, things that cause us pain and heartache. And so students, it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way. We've got to do the things that get us healthier, that get us a little bit better, that get our minds in a better place. Our minds, our bodies, and our souls, and our connection with God. And so students, today I want to tell you that you are not alone, that we're in this together. Lean into each other today. Trust each other. Let's get a little bit more vulnerable and real and open up and tell each other what's going on. And let's be willing to help each other out. So if you're interested in more about what we talked about today, here's a great resource that is called Beyond the Spiral. I actually pulled a lot of the information from this talk today from this book. We've got a lot of copies, and we'd even be willing to give you a free resource. So please talk with your small group leader, and feel free to come talk with myself or Pastor Cody, any of us on staff. We would love to talk with you more about what you're going through and make sure that you have the resources to help you get out of the place that you're in. This book is great. It's written especially for teens to get out of the anxiety trap. And there's another one. This book is called Your New Playlist, and it's all about the student's guide to tapping into the superpower of mindset, co-authored by a couple teenage girls. Really amazing book, all about the broken soundtracks, which is basically the negative things we tell ourselves about ourselves and how to replace broken soundtracks with great soundtracks, things that we should have on repeat. And this book gives 7 great soundtracks. So students, again, it's okay not to be okay. It's not okay to stay that way. Let's make sure you get the tools and resources that you need to help you get better. Hope you guys have a great small group discussion today, but first, here's Keller.
Hey there, home groups. Thanks for tuning in for another week of content. As always, before we send you off to your small groups, we have a few announcements. Get ready. This is the last time I'm going to do this year. These announcements are also pretty much all about summer, just so you know. First up, our summer calendar is live. Make sure to make note of all the events we have going on and plan on being there. A lot of our summer events are great opportunities to invite your friends into PTSM for the first time. Plus, who doesn't want to go bowling on a random weekday or chill with your buds at the park? It's going to be great. Check out prestontrail.org/events for more information. Another thing coming up this summer is Camp Eagle. We've talked about it. You've probably heard about it. Doesn't mean I'm not going to say it again. We're running a promotion right now that whoever has the most friend requests to be in their cabin in Camp Eagle registration forms wins a shopping spree at the Camp Eagle store for their group. Don't miss out on camp or a bunch of snacks. Sign up today and bring your friends. Spots are filling up fast. Make sure to lock yours in now. The last of the news involves our round table talks. I mentioned these during last home group, but this year we're having gatherings exclusively for our high school students over the summer that tackle the hard-hitting questions you have about the Bible, faith, and God. We're still collecting questions from students like you to prep content. To submit an anonymous question, use the QR code on the screen right now or the link in the description. This will take you to a survey that we ask you fill out as honestly as you can. The whole thing should take less than about 10 minutes. Finally, next week is the last small group of the school year. Enjoy hanging out with your small group and celebrating the completion of a wonderful semester. That's all from us. Enjoy your home group, and you have an awesome summer.
What the crackers?